Hey everybody, Milton Davis here. It's Wednesday, and we're here to discuss Kakonga, the Sword and Soul RPG. We've been discussing different aspects of Sword and Soul all this week, and so tonight I wanted to concentrate on Kakonga, talk about how the ideal came about, how it was, how it evolved, and where it is today. Like a lot of the projects that I work on, they come from a discussion about representation in different aspects of creative fiction, specifically in science fiction and fantasy. And that's basically how the Kikonga RPG came to be. It happened actually between a discussion between Balagoon Ojitadi and myself. We were talking about different things and different things that we hadn't seen, and he brought up the subject about role playing games. Balagoon is a long time aficionado of role playing games. Played Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, and talked about how he used his own knowledge to create Dungeon and Dragon games that were Afrocentric, that I said originated in African environments. And as we talked about it, and I asked him, I said, "Well, are there any African-based RPG games?" And he mentioned a few of them. There was one called Nyambe, and some other ones out in the day, but there wasn't anything that was really current that was going on. And at the time, not many of the role-playing games contained any type of worlds or any type of adventures or whatever you call them that were Afrocentric or contained black characters. So, like we always do, say, well, hey, let's do it ourselves. So we were talking about this, and this was actually at a event that we were taking part in, and we were there as parts of the panelists. And another person came up to us and said, "Are you guys talking about RPGs?" And we said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I'm Ed Hall." And Balagoon looked at him and said, "The Ed Hall?" And he said, "Yes." Now, I'm totally oblivious to anything that has anything to do with role playing games. True confession, the first role playing game I ever played was Kakonga. So I'm sitting there kind of dumbfounded. And then Balagoon looks at me. Ed is like one of the best editors and game people in RPGs. He worked for White Wolf and started running off all these different projects that Ed worked on. And so we were like, well, we're talking about creating a role playing game. And so Ed said, well, hey man, that sounds like a good idea. You guys get it put together. Then let me take a look at it, and I'll let you guys know how it looks. What I think about it and things like that. So we said, cool. Now I am going to tell you that as far as the role playing game is concerned, as far as the game mechanics of this game, um, this was basically Balagoon's field, which is why he is our griot. He knew all about the games, how to set them up and different things like that. My contribution to Gikanga was basically the world building, developing the different countries and different regions and looking at telling the different stories and things like that. But we worked on it for a while, and then eventually we got everything together and we launched a Kickstarter in order to fund the creation of the game, which we did, and then the Kickstarter was successful, and the result was Kikanga. Some of you are probably already familiar with it. Those of you who aren't, here you go. So basically, I'll flip through the book with you. If you're familiar with role playing games, you know basically what they're all about. What makes Kikanga unique was a couple of things. One is that it is a Afrocentric based role playing game. It's based on pre-colonial Africa, which is basically sword and soul. The book is divided up into different sections. Balagoon takes the time to explain what role playing games are, because we were focusing on a couple of different audiences. We were looking at people who were experienced when playing role playing games and were looking for something unique like Kakanga. And we were also looking at people who had never played role playing games before. So we wanted to start it very basic to give them an understanding of what a role playing game is and give them a general idea of how role playing games are performed and how they take place. One of the unique things about Kakanga is the gameplay system. Balagoon decided that he didn't want to go with the traditional dice, that type of thing. So basically, the mechanics of Kakanga are based on cards, and it's based on a number system that's similar to the card game 21. Now, again, I am not the game master, so I cannot get into details of the game and how it works and how it plays. That's Balagoon's that's Balagoon's wheelhouse, and probably in the near future we will have a video with him explaining the game and how it's played. But we did a couple of things before we launched the game. We actually had different test groups, and we sent the game out to different groups of people. We sent it out to people who were experienced game players to see what they thought about it. We sent it to people who had never played role-playing games before. And we sent it to people who were kind of like in the middle, people who really were looking for something that was Afrocentric. And we got some interesting feedback. And it's been something that has been, I don't want to say an issue, but a consideration of the game when it first came out. Dungeons and Dragons has had such an effect and such an influence on role-playing games, is that so when most people release role-playing games, they basically use the same system that Dungeons and Dragons uses. They use the same type of dice. They use the same categories as far as character development and stuff like that. And Kakonga was nothing like that. We didn't use dice. We didn't have categories like wizards and soldiers and different things like that. Kakonga is a game where you can actually build your own character from scratch, and you can make your character a warrior by choosing the different attributes that the character has. You can make your character a wizard by doing the same thing, but we don't have specific characters for that. And of course, if you were a person that has been playing Dungeons and Dragons for years, a lot of people found that difficult, and they found it as a negative because they were so used to games coming out being built on the same platform that having something where they had to basically really learn a new system was kind of daunting to them. On the other hand, we found that among people who were, and I hate to say it, people who were younger players and people who had never played the game before, there was a faster learning curve as far as adapting the game. One of the areas that was a particular interest of the game was actually in Brazil. We saw a lot of people who were interested in that region. We had one particular person who was on our Kakonga group that was a teacher and actually got copies of the game, taught his students how to play it, and took pictures and sent us pictures of them playing, Kakonga, playing the role-playing game. So we knew it was something that people would enjoy doing, and something that they were having a good time doing as well. Just to show you a little bit from the game, we'll flip through it a little bit. Some of the different sections. Of course, we have the section for character creation, and it basically gives you the rules on how to create your characters. Different sections about skills and talents and different things like that. Effects. As I flip through this, be patient with me because I did that. We also have a section on arms, armor, and equipment. What we did in this particular section of the book is that we based all the armor and equipment on pre-colonial African cultures. That gave you a unique difference as far as what the type of weapons that your customers were using. We had a couple of artists that helped us out in this project. We worked with Brian Syme, and we worked with Stanley Weaver Jr., and they did a lot of the artwork for us. There's a really cool picture in here that I'm looking for now that I want to show you guys. Let me see. Here it is right here. And you'll see when you get the book. The glare will go down in a minute. We actually have illustrations of the different weapons and the names of those weapons. And so, when you choose a weapon for your particular character, you know what to call it, and you have an idea of what it looks like. We also have an illustration of the different types of armor that are available in Kakonga. And you see over here on my left side, you see herbs of Kakonga. This was a very interesting section to me because Balagoon basically used his knowledge of African plants and herbs to develop this particular section. And looking at some of the different herbs and some of the different remedies that people could use during the game is really cool. And one thing that we also do with these different details in the game is that we've used them in some of the novels and some of the narratives that we've developed based on the game. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So also, this is one of the cool things. This is actually about the Kakonga resolution system. And this is where we talk about the card system and how we use the cards to, for resolution for different situations like conflicts and different things like that that you run into in a role-playing game. Let's see what else we got here. This is another unique section. Um, Creatures of Kakonga. Well, again, we went to African mythology and African tradition to select the creatures that would appear in Kakonga. So we have different creatures like the Impundulu, which is basically a creature that is like a can be many things. It can be a bird that controls lightning in different forms. It can be a vampire, but that's another unique attribute of the game is that the creatures that are being used in the game are basically traditional African creatures that have different mythologies behind them. So they really give you a lot more opportunity to give your game a different feel. Another thing that we have in here is Kakonga, the creator's world. We start off with a legend about how Kakonga was created. And from that legend, that's where all of our stories spring from. We have a map of Kakonga. That's the map there on my right. And we also have a breakdown of the different countries in Kakonga. What the names of the countries. Some of them are based on countries in Africa. Some of them we use direct names. We describe the cultures, the religions, the allies, the enemies, different things about that. Giving you as much detail as we can so you can develop, your own characters. And then we have some illustrations of the different people from some of the countries, like from Ox, for instance. This is a king or what we call a Ras from the region of Ox, and it's based on pre-colonial Ethiopian culture and stuff. We have, for instance, one of my favorite characters here. Just passed her a few minutes ago. We have Kadira. Kadira's people are based on the Nubian people of East Africa, of Northern Africa, just below the region of Egypt. So we have, the different countries. We have descriptions of them, and last but not least, in the back of the book, Balagoon actually created an adventure for people who are like unfamiliar with RPG games or people who are and they're trying to get a foothold on how do I create an adventure in the Kakonga universe. Balagoon provides a adventure at the end of the book that you can use as a guideline, and a lot of people did use that guideline. We had a number of games going on when we first introduced the book, and it was really some good feedback on it. Now, you heard me talk about adventures. We knew that for a lot of people, developing a Afrocentric or a pre-colonial African-based adventure would be challenging. A lot of people are coming to this game and they don't know a lot about pre-colonial African history. On the other hand, we had people who knew a lot about it and they were dying for something like this, and they got a hold of the game and they jumped right into it. So in order to help people develop adventures, we first released the Kakonga Anthology. Basically, this is an anthology with a collection of stories written by myself and Balogun, and we basically use those stories. We pick different regions of the different countries, and we develop different stories based on those countries and stuff. It's a really great book. It's got some great stories. Actually, the first story in the book is called The Cleave, the womb of it all, and it basically gives you the mythology of the creation of Kakonga and how Kakonga came to be. And we also have other stories in here. We have one of my characters, one of the characters who has a book series now, short story series now. Omari Ket was introduced in one of the stories in the anthology, the Kakonga Anthology. We have a really a wide range of books based on the Kakonga world. I just read the topics to you. The books that we have, these are books that are by Balogun. Dimbo's Ditty, which is actually a lit RPG book based on Kakonga. We have The Beatdown. We have and Beneath the Shining Jewel, which I have to say is one of my favorite Kakonga books because it's actually a horror book, and it takes place in Kakonga's major trade town of Sadiba. And it's, if you know Balogun, he is a horror is his thing, and he lets his horror flag fly in this one. It's a really great book. In addition to those books and the Kakonga Anthology, you have the books written by yours truly. We have Priestess of Incoo, which is a story that takes place on an island off the coast of Kakonga and introduces Nandi and her involvement with the Kakonga mainland history. We have the character who wasn't supposed to be, Etta Blessed, which is the first collection of short stories by Omari Kett. Some of the stories were actually written in other books and were in this first book, and they were collected into the first series. And we have the just released Etta Blessed 2, which is a continuation of stories about Omari Kett and his adventures in Kakonga. And we also have a one book that I don't have with me at this time, which is available on ebook, which is coming soon to paperback, which is The Bene's Daughter, which is actually a middle grade book that takes place with a story that takes place in Kakonga. As far as works in progress, we have Beneath the Shining Jewel 2, which Balogun is working on right now. The Bene's Heir, which is a sequel to The Bene's Daughter. Etta Blessed 3, where Omari Kett, the further adventures of Omari Kett. The Killing Storms, which is a story that takes place in the mid-region of Kakonga. And The Truce. So in addition to the books we already have, we have additional books that are coming out based in the world of Kakonga. So what's happening with Kakonga in the future? We are actually working on at this time Kakonga 2.0. It will be an updated version of the game. There'll be some added features. Balogun is introducing a new resolution system. We've heard some of the complaints, and we responded to them in a way. So we'll give people a choice. Those who like the card game will be able to play it that way, and the people who are looking for something that's more familiar, they will get that in Kakonga 2.0. I see one of the comments about Beneath the Shining Jewel 2. Yes, there is a Beneath the Shining Jewel 2 that is coming out. Excuse me for the throat. But the response overall with Kakonga has been positive. One of the things that we found out is that the characters have really been engaging, so much so that we found some of them appearing in other RPG games without our permission. We kind of figured the fact that there are some people who wanted to introduce some Afro-centric, some pre-colonial African aspects to their games. And instead of doing the work themselves, they decided to take a look at our work. So I guess it's kind of like a backhanded compliment when you get that kind of response from people. But again, if you are a role-playing game person, you are open-minded about something that's not D&D. I understand that Dungeons and Dragons fans, they love their situations, they love that game, they love to play it that way. And you're looking for something that is a role-playing game that is steeped in African culture and pre-colonial history, something that's not an add-on, something that's not a manipulation to try to get that feel. Take the time to take a look at Kakonga. I think you will enjoy it. If you have any questions, you can get in contact with myself or Balogun. Kakonga is available directly from MV Media. This month we're having our Sword and Soul sale, so you can get it at a discounted price. It's also available anywhere books are sold. You can purchase it at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or anywhere else. I'm going to take a little minute and put a link on here to the MV Media page. Got a few copies in inventory right now, so you can check it out. Matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll post up the Kakonga combo. With the Kakonga combo, let's see, you can get the RPG, you can get the map, and a Kakonga poster. That's interesting. I'm going to put this right here in the comment section. I'm going to also post a link to the RPG itself, the paperback copy. Let me see. Give me just a minute here. is right here on sale this month as well. And I'm going to put a link to the Kakonga Anthology. Again, like I said, these books are available directly from MV Media. They're also available through they're also available at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anything else. Let me do a couple more things. I tell you what. Let's see. Here's a link to the Etta Bless combo, which is Etta Bless 1 and Etta Bless 2. I've got them available at a special price. And also I'll post a link to Priestess of Incoo. And I'm going to go online, and I know I'm hitting you guys with links all over the place, but all of these are great books, and all of these books will give you tell you some great stories about Kakonga, and they will also give you some ideas for your adventures. This last one I'm posting here is Beneath the Shining Jewel. So basically, that's it about Kakonga. It's a great game. I think it's something that you'll enjoy. Again, we have novels available that will give you some starting points to consider your adventures. We have a very detailed RPG role-playing rules sorry, that will get you started on the games, and I think you'll enjoy it. So thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions, you can always send me a message, and I'll answer them as well as I can. Those that I can't answer about the details of the game, I will send over to Balagoon and get his responses to that. And so, get you a game, get your people together, and discover the adventures and the excitement of Kakonga. Y'all take care. Peace.